was drafted by the Florida Marlins in the June draft of 1995, and that was out of high school. And I went to Brewer High School, where I was drafted, but I chose to go 1 year to junior college at Northwest Shoals Community College and play there for 1 year. And then after that season was when I decided to turn professional. So they signed me from my draft spot in 1995, which was I was drafted in the 11th round of the draft. They drafted me, and then the following year I signed with that draft spot. So that was what they call that is kind of like a draft and follow. So they drafted the year before, and then they followed you for the next year, and then you would sign. I don't think they do that anymore. I think now they have a draft. They have a date, like a signing date that you have to actually sign before. And then now if you sign, and if you don't sign or whatever, then you would go into the next year's draft or whatever. But anyway, so then from there I went on to my rookie ball season in Melbourne, Florida. That was a short season as a 19-year-old, and then played that whole season. The next year was promoted to Single A. And I started the year in Single A, and I got hurt, and they shifted me down to another low Class A team called in the New York Penn League. So I went from the Gulf Coast League, which is rookie ball, to short season A in the New York Penn League. And I went back to low Class A in Kane County, which was low Class A. So they had like two. They had short season and a low Class A. And then the next year I went to high Class A, which is the Florida State League. That was 3 years into it. And then that year, in 1999, was the year that I got promoted to Double A. So I went from 96 rookie ball to 97 short season A, a little bit of low Class A. Then 98, all of low Class A the whole season. Then 99, it was high Class A in the Florida State League. And then I got a promotion to Double A during that year. And that's the Double A was the Portland Sea Dogs, so that was in Portland, Maine when I got promoted. I was in the Florida State League at Brevard County in 99. Then I got to Double A, Portland, Maine. That was in 99. And then 2000, I spent all year in Double A. And then 2001, I went to Triple A, and 2001 was when I got my first taste of the big leagues. I got just what they call a cup of coffee, just a few days in the big leagues in 2001. And then 2002, I made the team out of spring training, and made it to the big leagues officially, I guess, in 2002 out of spring training. And then I spent most of the season in the big leagues, but then I spent some time in AAA. And then 2003, after that 2002 season, I went to Puerto Rican Winter League, Puerto Rico, and then I went to Dominican Republic and played 2 weeks there. And then I got traded after that to the Detroit Tigers. And so I then went to spring training in 2003 with the Tigers, and made the team in 2003, but I ended up getting sent down for part of the season then, so I didn't spend the whole year. But then in 2004, the next year with the Tigers, I did spend the whole year in the big leagues. And then in spring training of 2005, I got hurt. My arm, that's when I ended up having surgery in 2005. And I had rotator cuff surgery in June of 2005. So I didn't make it out of spring training in 2005 because I was hurt. And then I tried to stay back in rehab, and I couldn't do it. I mean, I did it, but it wasn't right. So I ended up having surgery in June. And then in 2006, I missed all of that 2005 season. And I missed all of the next season because I wasn't ready to throw. And then in 2007, picked up with an Atlantic League team, which was independent baseball at that point. It's independent ball. It was not affiliated, which means there was no major league club affiliation. So I went there hoping to get picked up, and I spent 3 or 4 months there before I got picked up by the Phillies, and I went to Double-A with them. This was 2007, and then I spent the rest of the year in the minor leagues and Double-A and then Triple-A. Finished the season out. That was towards the end of the season, and then 2008 they invited me back. The Phillies did, to spring training, and ended up staying all year in AAA in 2008. And then 2009, which is my last playing season, I spent the whole year in independent ball again, the same league, the Atlantic League, but it was with a different team. And then after that season is when I was 32 at that point, and I decided that I wasn't going to be able to make it back to the big league, so I just retired at the end of the 2009 season. It was a span of basically 13 years between the minor leagues and the big leagues, and parts of 5 seasons in the big leagues. The majority of it was in the minor leagues. I was in Colorado Springs in 2001, and I was playing with Calgary, which is the Florida Marlins AAA team, the Calgary Cannons at the time. Of all places, the Florida Marlins AAA was in Calgary, Canada. Can you imagine that? And we were on the road in Colorado Springs, and Chris Chambliss, who was the great Chris Chambliss, who played with the Braves and the Yankees and had World Series rings, and he was my manager, and great dude, really good dude. And I remember after the game that night, I can't remember which night, but while we were there, sitting in my hotel room, and the phone rings, which is unusual because usually the phone only rings if it's an accident. So the phone rang, and I picked it up, and he said, "Nazi, this is Chams." I said, "Hey, Chams, what's going on?" I had no idea what was happening. He said, "Man, I just want to let you know that you're getting a call to the big leagues tomorrow." And I said, "What? Are you kidding? I can't believe it." I was just ecstatic. And he said, "Yeah." He said, "The trainer's going to help you get everything together tomorrow and get you sent off and get you to the airport." So that was in Colorado Springs, and the Marlins were playing in Cincinnati, which at the time they were in the middle of the Great American Ballpark being built, which is the ballpark where they are now. So the ballpark that I went to was Synergy Field, which is their old ballpark, and it was really not a very good park because it was old and it was ready to be torn down. But they were still playing games in it until the new one was built. And but I remember being the best ballpark I'd ever been in because it was the first big league park. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up. I think they were just starting a 10-game series. They were going from Cincinnati to Milwaukee to St. Louis in 10 games. And I pitched in I don't think it was the second night. I don't think it might have been the first. No, it wasn't the first night. It was either the second or third night that we were there in Cincinnati, and I got in for my very first chance in the big leagues. I was pitching out of the bullpen. They didn't need me as a starter at the point, but he was going to put me in the bullpen. I was a starter in the minor leagues, but they were going to get my feet wet out of the bullpen. So I remember the phone ringing. I had a couple of guys there that I knew, obviously, from spring training and such, and so they were trying to give me some advice on what to do, when to get up and start getting loose and stretching out a little bit, because I had not had any experience in the bullpen. I'd always been a starter. So I had just gotten up and kind of run around in the bullpen, getting my legs loose, stretching out, and the phone rang. And my heart kind of jumped a beat, kind of skipped a beat there. And I was like, and they say, "Nazi, you're up." And I'm like, "Oh," and I'm like, "I'm ready." I mean, I think in 5 throws, I was ready to go in the game. I mean, I was so pumped up and adrenaline running, just a huge adrenaline rush. And but they ended up getting out of the inning, so I didn't have to go in. I waited, and then the Cincinnati Reds came up to bat. The Marlins were still hitting, and then whenever we got out, I went out onto the field from the bullpen, which is out in the outfield. So I remember running across the outfield It's my first time on a big league field officially in a game, and I have to run all the way from the bullpen was in like right center field. I had to run all the way to the mound from out there, and I remember looking out at the stadium, which Synergy Field was like a round stadium, but they had taken out part of it because they were building the new ballpark right next to it. So it was traditionally when it was built, it was a completely round stadium, but it was open on one side now because of the building of the new stadium. But I remember running into the mound. I was looking out in the stands, and I was just thinking to myself, this is amazing. Look at all these fans, look at all these people. And then the thought came across my head, just don't trip on the way to the mound. Just don't fall. Just make it to the mound. And so I did make it to the mound without falling. and I pitched a pretty clean inning. I think I gave it one hit, but I got 3 outs. I think faced 4 hitters and got 3 outs. So it was a good first inning. Got my feet wet, and that was it. And we ended up losing the game. I think we were down by 2 or 3 runs. So, and it was late in the game, 6th or 7th inning, and we never ended up coming back. But it was fun. And then from there, they gave me a couple of days rest, and I started a game in Milwaukee. It was brand new Miller Park at the time, the park that they are in now. It was a retractable roof stadium. I'd never been in one of those. So that was the first time I've been in a stadium like that. And I pitched we had a doubleheader one of the days that we were there, making up a rain out. And so I was the game one starter of the doubleheader. And anyway, I ended up going. I only went like 5 innings, but I threw a lot of pitches, so they took me out of the game. But I struck out like 9. At the time, I set a record for most strikeouts for a starter in a debut major league start for the Marlins. But then that was not quick. That was quickly broken not long after, I think, by Dontrell Willis when he came up. But anyway, it was pretty neat. I'd struck out 9. I'd walked 2 or 3. But I had a lot of deep counts, so that's why I didn't go deep in the game. I ended up losing that game 4-3. But that was all happened in 2001, and then then the next year I ended up making the club out of spring training. But it was quite a shock, to the system to get called up and get to play in the major leagues. I mean, it was, of course, that's your dream. That's you finally see it realized that you get to do something you wanted to do for a long time, and so you really take it all in, I guess. But it was quite an exciting time. I had several awesome coaches. I'm going to start with the coaching staff. I think my most influential coach was my AA pitching coach, Steve Luber. He had some major league time. He pitched in the major leagues, but he and I kind of connected, and he helped me out. I went through a time in AAA with the Tigers, I think, when after they sent me down, and I struggled, and I was walking a lot of people, and I just couldn't find the strike zone, and I was just mentally struggling, just wondering if I was even going to be able to keep going because I couldn't hardly get guys out, and so I had to call him. This was, a few years after I had been under his tutelage, but I called him and said, "Hey, man, I need to talk to you. I'm struggling. How can I get through this?" And we talked it out one night, and helped me get through it. Just having that support of a former pitching coach that had been where I was, that had done what for years, done what I was trying to do, and had helped me out along the way. He'd actually shown me a pitch. He showed me whatever the word is. He showed me a cut fastball, and he showed me that in AA, and that kind of gave me a 4th pitch to my repertoire because I was a sinker baller. I was a fastball, changeup, curveball guy, and then he showed me the cutter, and that helped me out a lot with facing left-handed hitters, so I use that a lot with lefties. But he was probably most influential in my career, helping me get to where I needed to get through a low point, really. But I had some really, really good teammates along the way. Florida, I didn't get to spend as much time in Florida, it seems like, but I had a couple of guys that I grew really close with were some other pitchers with the Detroit Tigers. One was Mike Maroth, who's now a pitching coach in the Atlanta Braves organization. He's last year was a AAA pitching coach for them. He did a little bit of pitching. He was a pitching coordinator at one point, I think, for them. Another guy, Nate Robertson, he came over with me in a trade from the Marlins, which got me over to the Tigers. That when I got traded in, I guess it was that February of 2003. And a couple of those guys, we would go on the road and we would hang out. We'd go to restaurants together and go do things together. So those two guys are probably, two of my better buddies that I enjoyed hanging out with in the big leagues.
I have one more question. Do you eat macaroni and cheese with a fork or a spoon?
You're not going to like this answer. I don't eat macaroni and cheese. But if I did eat macaroni and cheese, I'm fairly certain it would be with a fork because I usually eat it with the same utensil that I eat the rest of my meal. So